For our introductory unit, we're going to be looking at methods of chemistry. So we're going to start off and look at some different types of lab equipment that we're going to use throughout the semester. We're going to use a balance, and that is going to be used for measuring mass. Some of the things that we'll measure will be in grams or milligrams. A lot of different types of glassware will be used. Erlenmeyer flask. So the Erlenmeyer flask is kind of triangular at the bottom, whereas the Florence flask is the kind that is rounded, like circular. And both of those are types of glassware that will be able to hold different types of chemicals, and those will be liquid chemicals. Beakers also will be glassware that can hold liquid chemicals, and beakers are going to have a spout, and that will be easy for pouring. These are tongs, and there are some different types of tongs, but these particular ones are for picking up beakers. Wire gauze is something that is sort of a wire mesh, and the circular area in the center is usually going to be fiberglass or ceramic, and that's where you would place a beaker or a type of glassware on top if you were heating something. So the apparatus that would be underneath that is the Bunsen burner. And so we do have some of these in the classroom, but we'll use a couple different types of burners this year, probably some butane burners. And the wire gauze will set above this on a ring stand or something that is supporting it. And that way the flame from the Bunsen burner will be heating it, and the wire gauze will be supporting the beaker up above that. A striker is something that is used to light a Bunsen burner, and that's what you see happening in this picture. So literally, you just move this across and it releases a little spark, and that ignites with the gas from the Bunsen burner. There are some different types of white bowls that we'll be using. An evaporating dish is this one, and you see this one has a little spout on it. So the evaporating dish is going to be used for heating liquids, and so if you had something like a saltwater solution, then that may be heated in this kind of dish. A crucible is going to be used for holding chemicals that you're heating to very high temperatures, perhaps metals that are melting, so it has a little lid on it. A mortar and pestle, this is a fun one. This is used to crush different solids like tablets into powders that can be used. And in this image, you can see an evaporating dish that's being used. Here's the wire gauze that we were looking at earlier, so you can see that it's supported on this ring stand. And then the Bunsen burner is below that. There are different types of pipettes that we'll use. So there are several different types in this picture. Volumetric pipette down here at the bottom. Volumetric pipettes are kind of long, thin glass tubes, and that helps to measure liquid with very great accuracy. And the pipette, the volumetric pipette, will have some type of aspirator on top of it to help draw up the liquid that you are measuring. And so this pipette bulb, this is an aspirator that is going to, you can see kind of the pipette down here at the bottom, but it's going to help to pull the liquid up into the pipette. Now, we don't have this kind in our lab. We have this syringe kind of pipette pump, and it just attaches to it, and then you'll use this to kind of expel the liquid after you have drawn the liquid up into the pipette. We also have several different kinds. This is just a standard dropper, and it does not have any kind of measurements on that. So if you do not need to measure the particular liquid, like if you're just putting food coloring, for example, or a drop of methylene to stain a slide, then that is what you might be able to use. These are micropipetters that are used with these tips on the end to extract very small increments of liquid. And then these are pretty standard. We have a lot of these and we'll use them pretty often. They are graduated. They usually go to about 3 milliliters, and it operates just like the dropper here, except for it is able to draw up a certain amount of liquid. A wash bottle is used to rinse, and usually you'll have distilled water in these. Ring stands are generally going to be used with these rings, these ring clamps. So a ring stand is going to be have a fairly solid, dense bottom so that it doesn't tip over. And you can add different types of utility clamps to the ring stands, but one of the most common things is having this ring clamp on it. And as we saw in the picture earlier, you can put the wire gauze and then you can set a beaker on top. We'll have some different thermometers that we're using, so we'll either be using alcohol-based thermometers or digital. This utility clamp is something that might attach to the ring stand, and that could be used to hold something like a test tube. Something else that is used with test tubes are these test tube racks, and so this is what you will set the test tubes in, and we have some different material of test tubes. So some of ours are glass and some of them are plastic. And a test tube clamp is going to be something that is going to hold a test tube if you are heating it. Stirring rods are usually going to be made of glass, and they're long, thin cylinders. Graduated cylinders are going to be cylindrical, and they also have graduated marks. We have some different size graduated cylinders. Some of them are pretty small and will measure up to 10 milliliters or 50 milliliters, and some of them are much larger and will measure 250 or 500 mils. Forceps are going to be used to pick up small objects. The forceps that we have are blue and plastic, but these are some metal ones. Funnels, a lot of times when we use funnels, we're going to put some kind of filtration paper in here, and then that will catch any solid materials and water or liquid to pass through. Sometimes you'll use funnels and just be transferring liquids from a larger container into a smaller container, or a container that has a narrow neck to it, kind of like these Erlenmeyer and Florence flasks do. So those are just some of the basic types of lab equipment that we will be using this year. It's not all of them, but that's just roughly an overview.